What's going on, guys? Jared with another video. Today in this video, I'm going to be breaking down in episode 2, going through card effects, guys, breaking down monster card effects like soft and hard once per turn effects. So if that's something you've been confused about or not sure if you can use effect more than once per turn, if reading the card text is confusing, this video is definitely for you. And then we're also going to go through spell speed and chain links and stuff like that. I'll even use an play of example that I had in one of my live streams that happened towards the end of the video and break down that chain link. It was a chain link 5, so it's a huge long chain link, pretty decently long chain link. Most you barely get past chain link 2 or 3 these days. So you guys look forward to that, and I appreciate this. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you guys get subscribed. Remember, on the road to 1,000 subscribers, my channel is mostly focused on getting new people back into the game and helping returning players, which is why I'm doing this entire series. I'll post episode 3 tomorrow, so make sure you guys subscribe if you want to check that out. I'm also doing a live stream on Friday at from 11 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, going through and doing a how to play Yu-Gi-Oh series and answering any questions you guys have. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and dive in. I don't want to be too long of an intro. So I figured we'd start with this and just kind of go through, um, start with quick effects, because this is something that I know a lot of people that, this is what not when most people, especially if you're new or definitely if you're a returning player as well, quick effects more than likely weren't out, during the time that you had, they were out, but they weren't called quick effects back then, essentially. So yeah. So quick effects, guys. So for these, basically what quick effect means when you see like this, like you see it listed here on Gizmek's a very popular card that you kind of see going around. That's why I chose to use it as one of the examples. This means a quick effect. Anytime you see a quick effect on the card, this means I can use the Gizmek basically on my turn or my opponent's turn. Uh, so basically what I can do, so if Gizmek's like in uh, my graveyard, and let's say I want to special summon him out, during like a lot of people will do a special summon it because you can't use both of his effects at the same time. So I'll just read his effect and we'll break it down. So this card is in your hand or grave. Your quick effect, you can banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down. Special summon this card. You can banish 3 cards from your extra deck, this is the second part of the effect. You can banish 3 cards from the extra deck face down. Then you can target one face up to destroy it. You can only use Gizmic effect once per turn. So you can only use one of his effects once per turn. So if I special summon him during my turn, right, I can't basically destroy one of my opponent's cards on my turn. I'll have to wait, the following turn. So what a lot of people will do, right, is they'll special summon Gizmic on your turn, right? Then when it goes back to your turn, they'll use their other effect to send the 3 cards from the extra deck to the graveyard to pop your card. That's how a lot of people play it, unless you're going to go for like maybe attack for game or something like that, and they need something to block, take the hit. Then they'll go ahead and special summon it before you go battle phase to help, save some of their life points or keep them in the game. So kind of keep that in mind too if you're playing against like a Grand Maju deck or something like that. But basically, anytime you've seen quick effect, guys, that's basically what it means that you can use it on your turn or your opponent's turn. So you can use these effects, on any player's turn. So the next thing I want to go over is soft and hard once per turn, and I want to go over activate versus use. That's another thing that a lot of people get confused and they don't really understand that the game is a little bit more, I won't say difficult, but it's a more little intuitive. Without the terminology and the terms are very important. So we're going to go through that here now. So we'll go ahead and go through soft and hard once per turn effects, and we're going to go over the use and activate in these examples that we'll be discussing next. So a good example of this is a very standard combo that happens here in a lot in Master Duel or just in regular Yu-Gi-Oh. Whatever you're playing, whether it's the actual with physical cards, or you're playing one of the simulators like my here on Master Duel, right? So Pot of Desires, right? Banish 10 cards from the top of your deck face down, then draw 2 cards. And see the last part here, you can only activate one Pot of Desires once per turn. And then we can see Ash. So if we read Ash, during either player's turn, when a card or an effect is activated that includes any of the following effects, discard this card and negate that effect. So you can see here it says negate the effect. So it doesn't negate the activation. So the reason why that's very important, especially and that's the reason why I chose Pot of Desires for this example, because this is a good interaction. Uh, because when they ask you with the Pot of Desires, since it says you can only activate, since this doesn't negate the activation, like let's say you have another Pot of Desires in hand, you can't play it. But let's say that you got hit with like Solemn Warning, this goes through and it uh, negates the activation of the card and destroys it. So this would allow me to play another Pot of Desires. If I happen to have a second one in my hand, I would be able to play it. Versus if I go back to the Ash Blossom scenario right here. So if you get play Desires and they go Ash, uh, they're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to activate, or your opponent, if your case your opponent's doing this, right? And you're the one that's ashing them, right? They're not going to be able to activate another Desires. That's why a lot of people play Ash because it's just a good example of why Ash is so good. Because when you do, because if we negated the activation, you would be allowed to play another card. All right. Well, I hope that helps make sense, guys. But different between the with the activate, with the what it says activate. So just to clarify one last time, and we'll move on to the next example. So right. So anytime you have whether it be like this standard combo here or anything else, if it just says it negates the effect and it doesn't say negate the effect and activation or negate the activation, usually it'll say negate the effect and activation, but you're mostly looking for the activation part. Obviously, it's going to negate the effect, which is why you're playing the card. Uh, so it's very important it says that because if it says that, uh, that means the other person can play a second copy of the card. If it just says, you can only activate this effect once per turn, or you can, whether it be a spell card, a monster card effect, a trap card effect, anything in the game, right? So when you negate the activation, just make sure you keep that in mind. So yet again, that's why Ash is so good in the game. That's why so many people play Ash at 3 copies. So like if, instead of that, you got to going back to the Solemn Warning example, right? If we Solemn Warning Pot of Desires, if they have a second one in hand, they're going to be allowed to play it. All right, so we're going to go over to the next one. So we're going to go over to use. You can only use uh, this effect once per turn. So this is we're going to go over the difference in use versus activate. So we're going to read Ovi. Ovi is a very common card. I love playing dinos, and a lot of people don't like dinos. So this will help you guys better understand dinos. So if you maybe don't like dinos, or if you do like playing dinos, either way, this will help you out regardless. So what Ovi does is, right. So when he's normal or special summon, you can take one dinosaur type monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. You can target one four. This is that's one of its effects. Its other effect is you can also target one of the 4 level dinosaur on the field and destroy it. Then special one dinosaur monster in your grave in defense position. You can only use each effect of basically of OV once per turn. So what this means, guys, anytime that you see where it says like specifically, you can, and it's always listed like this, you can only use the effect of, and it always lists the card's name. That's what you're looking for, because if it says you can only use the effect of, and then it lists the monster's name once per turn, that lets you know this is a whether let's say even if they do like in the example we had before where they negate the activation like with a solemn strike, let's say they solemn strike me, uh, when I go to summon Ovi, for example, let's say I normal summon him, normal summon activate his effect. I want to add a dino to my hand. They go solemn strike. How this transaction would happen is basically Ovi would be negated, destroyed. Since he says use, that means if I happen to, let's say I go like activate miss in graveyard, remove 4 from play, and bring another Ovi to the field, or I play Monster Reborn and bring back, Ovi, for example, right? I bring him back. His effect's not going to activate again. Now I still can use his second effect, right, to destroy another dino on the field. Uh, and special summon one back from the graveyard. I still can do that if as long as I haven't used that effect yet. So like in the example that we used, right, if I just normal summon OV, go effect, they solemn strike me, I can't reuse his effect. Even if I monster reborn him, I play a second copy from hand, anything like that, you're not going to be doing it because since it says specifically use, it's a hard. This is a hard. Basically it's a hard once per turn. So this is kind of the difference in the soft and the term hard once per turn. This is a hard once per turn. Once the effect is used, you can't reuse it. Even if it's even if it's the effect is the effect and activation is negated. So that's what makes stuff cards like these a little harder to play. So just keep in part he has a two-part effect, right? One, he adds a card to hand or sends it to the graveyard, and he can destroy a dino on the field and bring back one in defense. So you can only use one of those. You can use both effects, but you can only use them once. So keep in mind, so if you bring out a second copy of Monster Bornum, you're not going to be able to get do that again. That's all she wrote. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, please let me know down below. The next thing I want to go into is kind of spell speed. I've noticed a lot of people. One thing I want to kind of go over real quick before we kind of get into the spell speed, all the different spell speeds and how that works, is I notice a lot of people, especially playing through ranked and grinding back, getting back to platinum and trying to see trying to play enough, hopefully where I can try and get to maybe Platinum 1 finally. I just haven't been playing enough to try and get there. Uh, to make sure that you guys know, don't just click anytime that Master Duel tells you to, guys. It's not telling you to play. I just want to make sure everyone understands that because I see so many people like having good hands and probably some duels I honestly should have been lost, or it should have been at least a little closer matchup, if nonetheless. But the person that didn't know how to play their deck and they played every time that Master Duel told them to play. So just time it pops up and says, do you want to interact, and you click yes, and you want to play the card, or it tells you the card to play, right? It's not telling you to play that card. It's just saying that you can. It's not saying that, hey, this is what you need to do. So just make sure you guys keep that in mind. I'm not sure if some people I'm pretty sure knew that, but just yet again, this is for newer and returning players. So for people specifically in this category, right, just making sure you guys know that, because I see a lot of people that's probably new and returning that I'm playing against that are making very simple mistakes, and that's a huge mistake. Because right, that one mistake could cost you the game, especially since it's best of one. But I just wanted to go over that real quick. So, okay, so spell speed ones, guys, these are the slowest card effects in the game. These are going to be basically your normal spells, your field spells, your continuous spells, your equip spells, your ritual spell cards, and you can see by the little icons which ones they are. That's the equip, ritual, continuous. This is a flip effect, so monster flip effect, ignition effect. So you basically have to pay for cost because you have to send a card to trigger Crush Dragon, and then trigger effect. You have to remove him from play essentially. Uh, but that's basically it, guys. But these are the basic ones that are the slowest ones. So anything above. So basically, you need something that's going to be a spell speed 2 to basically to negate this essentially. Uh, so next is going to be more of your spell speed too. These are going to be more of like where your hand traps and stuff like that are at, like effect failure and things like that, because they're quick effects and things like that that you can play from the hand. So your uh, hand trap is the one that I'm looking for. These are going to be spell speed 2. Uh, Also, is going to be spell speed 2 spell cards that are quick effects. All of your trap cards, any trap card, normal, continuous. They're going to be trap other than counter traps, which are going to be your spell speed 3 that we'll get into. Remember, quick effects, you can activate your turn or your opponent's turn. So the only spell speed 3, the highest one that you guys can do, are counter traps. Counter traps beat everything in the game, except the exception to a few cards that are in the game, which are very rare, but majority these are going to be the main cards that you're going to uh, be using to negate, right? Like you got your solemn warning, your solemn scolding, your strike, your solemn judgment, things like that. These are going to be the main ones that you're going to see that are, you know, so the only way to stop them is going to be able to go another counter trap. So if you get Solemn Judgment, you're not going to be able to use your quick effect to negate it. You're going to have to use something that's on the same spell speed or higher. So like here, like for example, if you have a bunch of monsters on the field that have a lot of quick effects, that's why you see a lot of chains going back and forth with, your opponent negating stuff, you using stuff to negate your opponent's stuff, like in the example I'll play here in just a few moments. Uh, so things like that, all of that would be considered spell speed too. So spell speed 4, these are just kind of a fan-made term, but I figured I would include it just because a lot of these cards, I say a lot, but mostly Super Poly is the one that's played and the one that's most famous for this particular matchup or situation. So right, so basically spell speed 4 is essentially basically cards you can't respond to. So like for example, I'll just read Super Poly because it's the one everyone should know and needs to know because it's definitely the most common one used these days. Basically, for how Super Poly works, guys, you can discard one card, send basically fusion material cards your side of the field and your opponent's side of the field to the graveyard to fusion summon essentially. And then we're going to special summon it from the extra deck. This special summon is treated as a fusion summon. Spells, traps, and basically and card effects cannot be activated in response to this activation, meaning they can't negate Super Poly. So once I activate Super Poly, they can't negate it. The only way they would be able to stop it, like, is if they already have uh, like Imperial Order, something like that that's already face up on the field, or something that's going to allow us to not be able to like play spell cards at all, like the Secret Village or the spellcasters. That one that won't let you play spell cards unless you have like a spellcaster type monster on your side of the field, right? As long as you have a spellcaster monster, then of course you could do this, then Super Poly and try and break your opponent's board and use that to your advantage after that point. But I figured I'd include these just so you guys could see. But hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do my best to get everyone in the comments or answer them in the next video as well. If we could definitely get a lot of good ones, or it's like a lot of similar questions. But I hope you guys found this video very helpful. I put all this together to try and make it, to make sure I didn't spend too much time on any topics, and I went over everything we did. So we covered a lot of stuff today, guys. So just let me know what questions you have. I'm going to go ahead and go into the example part I have, going through the chain link example. I'll see you guys there, and then that'll be the end of the video. I'll see you there. In deck, so we'll go researcher effect, guardian, which is perfect here. So we go guardian. I'm like, we got this. And now there's where he starts the chain that basically when that's we go chain link 3, negate it. He didn't see that coming. He goes chain link 4, but he didn't see this one coming at all. We chain link 5 him, guys. Chain link 5. My first chain link 5 in this, on a Master Duel. I've done episode like that before on Omega, but definitely not on here. So we win the chain. He's negated. He's not destroyed because of his effect, but that's fine. We just wanted to negate him. That's all we cared about. And now I can bounce his stuff back. This is one heck of a play. Please like the video, guys, for this epic comeback, because I thought we were going to get destroyed, and I was going to